From the man who brought you Iron Sharpens Iron, how about Skill Recognizes Skill? He's Corey Clark, the lead writer at Warchant.com. My name is Tom Lang. What has stood out to you through a week of practices?
Well, I wrote about it on Friday, the first day in pads, the only day in pads for the first week. And look, man, it was a carryover from the Oklahoma game for me, where it doesn't matter what kind of coverage you have on 14. If he doesn't have a case of the dropsies, he's almost unguardable. And Jordan Travis goes to him a lot with good reason. And I thought both of those guys were exceptional on Friday in pads. And, they're not just to break down these practices. It's not just 2 hours of good on good. They'll do, 10 minutes of one-on-ones with wide receivers and DBs. They'll do probably 10 or 15 minutes of 7-on-7 and then 10 or 15 minutes of 11-on-11, and all the players are getting reps. So it's not like Jordan Travis and Johnny Wilson are out there for 50 reps together. They were probably, I would guess, out there for 16 reps together. And on half of those, it seemed like they made big plays. And I know that's a slam dunk, easy observation to make, but you start thinking about how good Jordan was at the end of the year, how dominant Johnny was in the bowl game. And if those guys get better and get more comfortable with each other after a full offseason and they have a whole nother year together, you could be looking at 2 All-American candidates, right? I mean, I think you're talking about we know in Jordan's case that he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I think Johnny Wilson could make that leap. I mean, they've got good DBs and they can't do anything with them.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed, Corey, as the offensive line and defensive line meander over for 11-on-11, so do I. And then we meet up and we trade notes. It's a fun process. But I've noticed in team stuff, Jordan seems to be zipping the ball a little bit extra. He's showing off the cannon a little bit this spring. Have you noticed that, or is that just something that happens when they go full team and because the windows are getting tighter, maybe because the coverage is better? Do you see the same thing that I've seen?
Yeah, I've seen it. There are a couple of plays that stuck out on Friday. There was it wasn't even a back shoulder. It was like a back hip throw to Toafili, who was pretty well defended, about 20 yards downfield. But he was running and the linebackers running with him. And the only way Jordan could complete the ball is to throw it just a slight tad behind Toafili. And Toafili's a great athlete. And he zips the ball like really with some pace. And he did it a couple of times to Marquiston too, who, by the way, that guy, you want to talk about a guy that impressed over 3 days. Marquiston Douglas, I know they like the shiny toys of these other tight ends they brought in, but Marquiston Douglas is going to play and play a lot. He's going to be a big deal in this offense, I think. But yes, I have noticed that. Look, man, he just throws the ball with conviction, with so much conviction. And he also, as we all know, he can make the throws down the field, those like 35-yard lofted sideline passes. He's really good at those. But the middle of the field, which is what the big step was for him last year, it's still there. He's still utilizing that a lot. And again, going back to Johnny real quick, I know it's one thing to say, oh, yeah, he's unguardable. What's so impressive about that kid, to me, is he's 6'7" and he moves like he's 6'1". Off the line of scrimmage, he's really hard to deal with, even at that size. So that's why that quickness, he doesn't have great top-end speed, but he runs by everybody on the team because he's got those long strides. And once he gets one step on you, it's like he's got 2.5 steps on you because his strides are so much bigger than yours.
We know this buddy is NFC South fans. He's a lot taller than, but it's like Mike Evans. Mike Evans for the Buccaneers has a really good release, even though he's not the fastest guy in a 40-yard dash. He's got a really good release and finds a way to create separation. If Johnny just comes down with more routine catches, I mean, he's got hundreds of yards more that he left on the table in 2022. What could happen in 23? Let's pivot to the backfield real quick. The running back room is loaded for Florida State. At least when I've seen in team drills, guys have taken turns making big plays, and it's seemingly every single one of them who has a standout moment by the end of a given day, be it not in pads or in full pads. What have you seen from those guys?
The most intriguing name to me, Tom, after a week, and again, it's just a week, 1 day in pads, is Keziah Holmes. He's an impressive guy, man. He's a big dude with some burst. And I just try to figure out, okay, who's getting these reps? Like, Trey Benson, 3 is going to be there. And we all like Rodney Hill. And Toafili is a guy that needs to be on the field a lot just because he can do so many things for you. He's such a mismatch. But what are they going to do with Keziah Holmes? Because he's impressive, man. And is he 4th string? Is he 3rd string? Is he going to get 10 carries a game, or is he going to get 10 carries a month? I really don't know, but he's been impressive from what I've seen. I didn't realize because his numbers at Penn State weren't great. He clearly didn't play much. And then obviously he was on the scout team all of 2022. But there's a reason he was a 4-star guy and Penn State wanted him and that Florida State wanted him. And he's got something to him. He's a big guy that can move. He's got some shiftiness.
He does, and he also is not afraid to lower the shoulder and just drive through you, which is something that I think would be a good compliment for Trey Benson. If it is Keziah who is the second team guy, the second guy who gets the reps, Trayshawn Ward was different and good as a compliment to Trey Benson because he would just go straight ahead. He wouldn't dilly-dally. He wouldn't wait. Keziah looks like he could be that player. Rodney Hill has shown flashes, of course. And then Lawrence Toafili's the forgotten man in that room, and he's the Swiss Army knife.
I think, if nothing else, showing Trey Benson how Keziah Holmes runs. And look, he's not trying to bust a 50-yarder here. He just wanted his 4.5 yards, and he hit the hole. Trey, that's what you have to do. That could rise Trey up. He could see another body type that's kind of like his that's just running dudes over, and that could be good motivation for Trey Benson.
As for the defensive side of the ball, again, you talked about it. They break out into one-on-ones for a short period of time, but Florida State's trying to balance a lot of different players for only 5 positions in the defensive backfield. And I say only because it's sneaky deep, the defensive backfield, I think, Corey, especially with Cypress coming over from Virginia. That locks down one position. Azareye'h Thomas improved by the end of his freshman season. He would figure to get some snaps. And then the intrigue of Amarian Cooper playing safety, Travis Jay getting a lot of reps in week 1. How do you handicap that from what you've seen through 3 practices and what stood out to you on the defensive side?
Look, here's what I would predict, and I have no way of knowing this. It's not like they even run these guys out at the same time together. I think your 2 corners are Renardo Green and Finchal Cypress. Now, look, Cypress has gotten beat a few times. He's dealing with some real receivers now. Deuce Spann ran right by him for a big gain in one-on-ones. And Deuce Spann's another guy. I think Darian Williamson's the guy speaking of the wide receivers, that's the guy that could be a real dude that they really like. So that's a guy to keep a name on. Hadn't really done much here his first few years, but that body type and that size, he's a handful for these DBs to deal with. But so I think those are your 2 corners. And I honestly think Greedy Vance is locked down nickel. The nickel. I mean, he's good, man. To me, he was the most impressive defensive back of the first week. And he had a good season last year. I looked it up on Pro Football Focus. He had the 4th highest grade of anybody that played significant snaps on the entire defense. The other 3 were Jared Verse, Jamie Robinson, and Fabian Lovett. So, I mean, he was keeping good company. So I think those 3 guys are kind of set, at least in Corey Clark's brain, set in stone, providing they don't get injured. But those safety spots, man, and Jarian Jones is going to play. Azareye'h Thomas is going to play. Where do they play? Are they going to play slot corner? Are they going to play behind? To me, that's the most intriguing thing. How much are they going to play? I would be surprised if Jarian or Azareye'h started for this team, but they should get 30 or 35 snaps a game, right? I mean, I think they're going to want to keep those guys fresh.
It just seems to be a theme across the board, both sides of the football, that you can go 100% on fewer reps, not just in the trenches, not just at receiver or running back, but also defensive back, safeties, corners. They're building the depth that you see and is reserved for the top flight of college football. It's a fun process for us to watch. But how about somebody that you enjoy watching? Let's Corey Clark goes to Gwinnett to take a look at the minor league Braves, and he's got a guy that he likes to watch. Maybe won't be ready for prime time in the near future, but somebody that you've circled and said that kid could be different. Is there anybody like that for you through 1 week of spring camp?
Yeah, it will stay in the defensive backfield. The KJ Kirkland kid, it's safety. I don't know what he's going to be this year. Probably not going to play a lot. Like we talked about, there's a lot of depth. We didn't even mention that. And to that point, real quick, remember 2 years ago, Jarvis Brownlee was playing literally every play of every game. Jarvis Brownlee, who wasn't, as we all know, a fantastic cornerback. Now, last year it was Jamie Robinson that played pretty much every snap. I think this year they won't have anybody in the defensive backfield that plays every snap. I think they will trust the backups enough that they really are rested and ready to go in the fourth quarter. To that point, maybe somebody like KJ Kirkland can get in the mix. I don't know. I think that might be too much to ask for a true freshman with I don't want to say a loaded secondary, but a very experienced with secondary with a lot of depth. But that guy to me has been really impressive. Just the way he competes, man. The way he's one of those guys that he's going up against a veteran receiver. The veteran receiver maybe catches the ball in 7-on-7. he's still trying to rip the ball out. Like he gets there with a purpose. And I just think that mindset is something that can't be taught. You either have or you don't. You know that, Tom. You're a dog, and dogs recognize other dogs. So and me too. I'm a dog, and I see KJ Kirkland. I'm like, that's a dog right there. So, but seriously, I do think he's got that what for, that when he gets to the ball, he wants to separate the dude from the ball, and he can move. And on the offensive side, Jacobs, the freshman wide receiver, I mean, that speed will play, dude. Again, I don't know if he's going to play a lot this year because, again, he's coming into a crowded room. But it's noticeable that he fits right in and that he is very, very fast.
Yeah, that's 100% I agree about Vendravius Jacobs. There's just something about the way he gets out of his breaks. It reminds me of a young Rashad Green in the sense that he kind of speeds up coming out of it. Does that mean he's going to crack a rotation this year? That would be a really tall order, but he's a lot of fun to watch. And I think, Corey, we spell dog D-O-G. I think it's safe to say that that's how we spell dog the standard way, because I don't know that we have
D-A-W-G?
I don't know that we've got that kind of sizzle to us, man. I got to be honest.
Fair.
It's a skill position breakdown. We're going to continue to do this as spring camp wears on. It's a lot of fun because Florida State, if you haven't checked lately, they're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster, they're a deeper football product to watch, and it's a pleasure to be out there at practice. We'll be back next week. He's Corey Clark. My name is Tom Lang. This is Warchant TV. Hit the like button underneath the video, subscribe for free, and check out warchant.com on the way out.